Most of the people that we talk about in history classes are grown-ups, but you don't have to be an adult to do something important. Today, we're going to learn about a young Native American woman named Sacagawea who made history when she was just a teenager. I'm Miss Kate, and this is Fun Facts.
Welcome to Fun Facts. We're bringing you real facts about real people, places, animals, and science every Monday and Wednesday.
Sacagawea was born in 1788 into a Native American tribe known as the Shoshone. This particular tribe lived in the northern United States near what we tend to know now as the border between Montana and Idaho. And her father was the chief of their particular tribe. So even when she was a kid, Sacagawea and her 3 siblings spent a lot of time helping her community. Mostly their jobs were to help gather food and to help pack up the tribe to move to different areas where it was easier for them to find food during colder months. Sacagawea's life was pretty peaceful until she was about 12 years old. At this time, her Native American tribe was in a battle with another Native American tribe during which she and her siblings were all taken prisoner. After that, Sacagawea was given to a French-Canadian trading camp nearby, where she lived with a man that she would eventually marry. This was also about the time that we first heard her referred to as Sacagawea. This was actually the name that her French-Canadian husband gave her, and we don't know what her real birth name was. When she was about 16 years old, 2 men named Meriwether Lewis and John Clark came to visit the camp where Sacagawea and her husband were living. Lewis and Clark were explorers out to explore the entire western half of the United States, which was brand new to us and we hadn't really seen yet. Their end goal was to try to create a trail across the country that would eventually reach the Pacific Ocean. These 2 men were looking for a translator, somebody who could speak both their language and the languages of the many Native American tribes that they were bound to encounter along the way. Even though Sacagawea was only 16 years old and was about to have her very first baby, her husband volunteered the 2 of them to act as translators. Actually, it worked like this. Sacagawea would speak to the Native American tribes. She would then turn around and speak French to her husband, who would then turn around and turn the French into English so that Lewis and Clark could understand her. Lucky for Sacagawea, around the time that they were getting ready to leave, she had her first baby boy. She actually decided to travel with the baby, strapping him to her back and crossing the country with a little baby in tow. When they started out their journey, Lewis and Clark only expected Sacagawea to translate for them, but they quickly learned that she knew more about the land than they had ever even thought. She was the only woman out of the 12 men on the trip, and she had grown up living on the land, learning how to find food for her people, and learning what areas were the safest to live in. She ended up being the guiding force that led all of them to the ocean and kept them alive. She knew how to navigate the rivers, she knew how to harvest food, she knew what was safe to eat, she knew how to avoid predators like bears. None of the guys had ever thought of that. But don't think that she had it easy just because she was a girl and had a baby. Sacagawea endured all of the same hardships as the 12 men on the trip with her. She went hungry when they were hungry, she slept when they slept, and she walked when they walked. And there was a lot of walking. Remember, they didn't have cars back then. And in the end, they had to travel over 2,000 miles to get to the Pacific Ocean. If you want to learn a little bit more about what the journey was like for Lewis, Clark, and Sacagawea, I would check out The Crossing by Donna Jo Napoli. It is actually a picture book. It's not a nonfiction book, but it still contains a lot of interesting facts and a lot of really beautiful pictures. You can learn a little bit more about what they actually went through on their trip. Just because she lived a short life, that doesn't mean that Sacagawea isn't important. Without her help and guidance, all of those 12 men that she traveled with would have either gotten lost, starved, or been killed by a predator or an enemy tribe. And she managed to teach all of them all of these important things while taking care of a baby. That's pretty impressive if you ask me. Apparently, it was pretty impressive to the US government as well. Sacagawea has a statue in the US Capitol in Washington, D.C., and she's the first Native American woman to actually have a statue of herself built on United States government property. She also is the first Native American woman to appear on U.S. money. She's on the gold dollar coin, which you can still find sometimes. The picture on it is actually based off of another woman in her tribe and carrying a baby, because as I said, we don't actually know what Sacagawea looked like. But it's meant to represent her and the important contributions that she made to helping our country grow. If you want to learn a little bit more about Sacagawea's very short but very important life, I would like to recommend that you also check out I Am Sacagawea by Brad Meltzer and Sacagawea by Rosemary Wallner. Both of these are books that we own and we have waiting in the library for you to check out right now. That's all the time that we have for Fun Facts today. Thank you for joining me. I have been Miss Kate, and I hope to see all of you at the library very soon.